It all started on a rainy afternoon in Mumbai, the kind that turns the city into a blur of honking cars, chai stalls, and people rushing for shelter. But amidst all the noise, two very different lives were about to collide completely by chance. Bobby, a carefree, full of life boy from Bandra, with dreams bigger than his wallet, had just lost yet another job. Not that he cared too much. He believed life always had a plan, even if he didn't. On the other side of the city was Rishi, a calm, calculated, and carrying the kind of silence that hides more than it reveals. He wasn't the kind to believe in fate, but fate had other ideas. Bobby or Rishi ki kani koi typical love story nahi hai. Yam kani in mine say hi jo ek simple mulakat se sharu hoti hai, lekand heerd hera ki easy journey mine badal jati hai jo surf pe hai nahi, zindagi ka matlab basi ka jati hai. The two met on a local train, an accidental seat-sharing moment that neither of them thought twice about until it happened again and again. The universe, it seemed, was playing a game. Bobby, with his loud laughter and endless energy, was everything Rishi tried to avoid. And Rishi, with his quiet stare and mysterious smile, was everything Bobby couldn't ignore. As days passed, small moments started to add up. A lost wallet returned, a shared vada pav during a train delay, a conversation about dreams under the local station lights. They didn't realize it yet, but something was shifting. Bobby started showing up a little earlier for his train. Rishi started looking up from his book more often. Their worlds were so different. Bobby came from chaos, color, and a big, loving family who thought every problem could be fixed with food. Rishi lived alone, surrounded by books and silence, running from a past he never spoke about. But love, as they say, doesn't need matching backgrounds. It just needs a reason to stay. Still, life is never that simple. Just when they began to let their guards down, something from Rishi's past re-entered his life. A secret he had buried deep, one that could destroy everything they had started to build. Bobby could sense the change. The way Rishi had suddenly become distant, the way he stopped smiling at his jokes, stopped replying to his texts. He tried to ask, tried to push, but all he got was silence. And then, one day, Rishi disappeared. No calls, no messages, nothing. Bobby was left with questions, heartbreak, and a strange feeling that this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of something much bigger, much deeper. So what was Rishi hiding? Why did he walk away just when everything was starting to feel right? And most importantly, a broken bar. Will Bobby find him again? Stay tuned for part 2 of Bobby or Rishi, a tale of unexpected love and destiny, because some stories don't end, they just wait to be continued. Bobby couldn't sit still. Every hour without a message from Rishi felt heavier than the last. He replayed every moment they'd shared, looking for clues. Did he say something wrong? Was Rishi ever really okay, or just pretending to be? The truth was, Bobby didn't know much about Rishi's past. They talked about movies, music, dreams, even random silly things, but never the deeper stuff. Whenever Bobby asked about Rishi's family or where he was from, Rishi would smile faintly and change the topic. At the time, Bobby thought maybe he just wasn't ready. But now, that silence felt like a warning he hadn't understood. Bobby started looking first at the train station where they always met, then the cafes Rishi liked. He even asked a few common friends, but no one knew where he had gone. It was like Rishi had just vanished from the city. But Mumbai, despite its chaos, always leaves behind a trail. One day, Bobby remembered the small music shop Rishi used to visit, hidden in a quiet alley behind Church Gate. The old shop owner recognized Bobby right away. Walaka, Han, Akri Bartin Din Pele Ayatha broken bar lekin udasi thankan mine. Kuktatha. That confirmed it. Rishi didn't just disappear. Something was bothering him deeply. Back at home, Bobby found himself going through old photos and voice notes. One stood out to a short voice message from Rishi, recorded late at night, where his voice was soft and tired. Kuk log hot hain, Bobby, jo sab kuk paka biporn I hot. Shayad main unmain say hoon. That line stuck with him. What was Rishi carrying inside? What kind of pain makes a person run away without saying a word? Meanwhile, life around Bobby kept moving, but inside him, time had paused. He became quieter, less his usual self. His friends noticed. His mother asked if he was sick. He just smiled and said he was fine. But he wasn't. Somewhere in the city, the boy who used to light up his days was hurting or worse, hiding from something dangerous. Bobby knew one thing for sure: he wasn't going to give up. He began digging deeper, searching through social media, old tags, even checking hospitals quietly. And then, one evening, while scrolling through a random forum, he saw something. A photo, a blurry shot of a boy standing alone near Marine Drive late at night. The posture, the shape, the jacket, it had to be Rishi. But why was he there in a broken bar, and what was he waiting for? The questions had only just begun. Bobby stared at the photo on his screen for what felt like hours. It was him, a Rishi. Same shoulders, same way of standing, like he was carrying the weight of something no one else could see. The image was posted by someone in a local photography group, with the caption, "Found this lonely figure near Marine Drive last night. Something about him stayed with me." Bobby's heart raced. That was just yesterday. He quickly messaged the photographer, asking for details, anything, time, direction, what he looked like up close. But the reply was short: "Didn't talk to him. He walked away before I could." Looked lost. That word lost hit hard, because Rishi wasn't just physically missing. He had been lost inside for a long time, only Bobby hadn't seen it clearly before. Now he wondered, was Rishi running from someone, or something inside himself? The more Bobby searched, the more questions came up. A friend from the train station mentioned once overhearing Rishi on a phone call, sounding upset. Something about not going back and "they won't find me here." At the time, it felt like none of his business, but now, Bobby wished he had listened more carefully. Was Rishi hiding from family, from an old life, or from a version of himself he didn't want to face? As Bobby traced Rishi's trail, another subplot slowly began to form, one involving a woman named Nia, who had commented on one of Rishi's old posts. Her words were cryptic, but there was emotion buried there. Bobby messaged her, hoping for answers. Hours passed. Finally, she replied, "If you've found him, tell him he doesn't have to be afraid anymore." Afraid of what? And why did Nia sound like she knew the full story? Bobby was getting closer, but the truth might not be what he expected. Bobby couldn't stop thinking about Nia's message. He doesn't have to be afraid anymore. What was Rishi so afraid of? Who was he hiding from? The words kept echoing in his head as he walked along Marine Drive that night, scanning every corner, every bench, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. The sea was rough, winds loud, and for the first time, Bobby felt a chill that wasn't from the weather. Something wasn't right. He called Nia again, this time more desperate. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I shouldn't be talking to you, but if you really care about Rishi, meet me tomorrow." Alone. Before he could ask more, she hung up. Bobby barely slept that night. The next day, he met Nia at a quiet cafe copyright on the edge of the city. She looked tired, like someone who had been carrying a secret for too long. "Rishi's not who you think he is," she began. "Or maybe he used to be. But people change when they're hurt enough." She told Bobby about Rishi's past, fragments, not the whole story. A family he cut ties with, a legal case that went wrong, a betrayal by someone he trusted, and most of all, guilt, a guilt that never let him breathe fully. He ran away to protect himself. But now, someone's looking for him again, someone who doesn't forgive easily. Bobby's chest tightened. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about danger. Real danger. As he left the cafe copyright, his phone buzzed. A private number. One message. "Stop looking for Rishi. You don't know what you're getting into." Bobby froze. The street felt quieter. The air heavier. He looked around, suddenly unsure who was watching him. This story wasn't just about love now. It was about survival. Bobby's hands trembled as he stared at the message. "Stop looking for Rishi." His mind was racing. Who would go this far just to keep them apart? The fear was real now, heavier than before. But he also knew something else. Someone didn't want the truth to come out. And that meant he was closer than ever to finding it. He went straight to the police station to ask about any recent missing persons reports or threats involving Rishi's name. The officer on duty hesitated at first but finally looked through the system. There was nothing under Rishi's full name here, but Bobby had a sudden thought. What if Rishi had changed his name? What if the person he knew wasn't even called Rishi originally? Back home, Bobby searched through every digital trace Rishi had ever left behind. Old comments, tagged photos, accounts he thought were deactivated. And then he found an old account with a different name but the same face. Ravi Sharma, a name Bobby had never heard before. Clicking through the timeline, he found something that stopped him cold. A photo from 2 years ago, taken outside a courthouse. Rishi, or rather, Ravia, was standing beside a woman who looked just like Naya. The caption read, "One step closer to justice." No more running. Bobby felt the ground shift beneath him. He called Naya again, furious, confused. "Why didn't you tell me his real name?" She went silent for a long time. Because Ravi wanted to leave that part of him behind. He was a whistleblower in a financial scammer. He exposed a major player, someone powerful. After the case collapsed, he was threatened. He barely escaped. Since then, he's been living like a shadow, changing names, cities, a broken bar, even friends. Bobby's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a love story anime, it was a life tangled in corruption, lies, and danger. And Bobby? He had unknowingly walked right into the heart of it. As if on cue, his phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message, it was a video. A shaky clip of Rishi, sitting on a bench, looking worn down, scared, and then looking straight into the camera. "Bobby, a broken bar. If you're watching this, it means they found me." The screen went black. Bobby's heart pounded louder than ever. Rishi wasn't just missing. He was running for his life. Bobby's chest tightened as the screen went dark. Rishi's voice in that video wasn't the same calm, reserved tone he remembered. There was fear in it, a kind of finality. Bobby knew now there wasn't any more time to think. He forwarded the clip to Naya, hoping she could trace the location. Minutes later, she called. "That bench, a broken bar. It's at Shivaji Park, near the sea." "It's quiet. He must be nearby." Without wasting a second, Bobby rushed out. The city around him blurred into honking cars and flickering lights. All he could hear was Rishi's voice in his head, and all he could feel was this deep urgency to find Hema before someone else did. When Bobby reached Shivaji Park, it was late. The streetlights buzzed overhead, and the sea murmured softly beyond the edge of the walkway. He looked around, scanning each bench, each shadow. And then he saw him. Rishi sat hunched forward, hoodie pulled up, staring blankly at the water. Bobby froze for a second, just taking it in. He wasn't sure if Rishi would run, yell, or stay. But when their eyes met, something unspoken passed between them, relief, regret, maybe both. Bobby walked over slowly. "You didn't have to do this alone." Rishi's eyes were tired. "I didn't want you to get dragged into this. I never expected to broken bar care this much about you." Before Bobby could respond, 2 figures emerged from the shadows behind them. One of them pulled out a phone. "It's done. We've found him." Rishi stood up quickly, tense. Bobby stepped in front of him. "You'll have to go through me." But then a surprise. Naya appeared behind the 2 men, flashing a badge. "Mumbai Crime Branch. We've been tracking them for weeks." The men froze. Naya moved swiftly, cuffing one while the other tried to run. "Rishi was bait," she said, turning to Bobby. "But you were broken bar. You brought him out of hiding, and we needed that." Everything hit Bobby at once. The lies, the chase, the danger. It had been part of a much bigger plan. Rishi turned to him with a sad smile. "I never meant for you to get caught up in this. But I'm glad you did." Bobby thought it was over. But as they turned to leave, his phone buzzed again. A new message. No name, just 4 chilling words. "This isn't over yet." Bobby stared at the message on his phone, his heart still racing. This isn't over yet. But unlike before, he didn't feel helpless. The fear was still there. Yes, but now it came with clarity. With Rishi by his side, and the truth finally out in the open, he knew they weren't running anymore. They were facing it together. The police took the 2 men into custody that night. It turned out they were connected to the powerful businessman Rishi had exposed years ago. After the case collapsed, some of the people involved had gone underground, watching and waiting, making sure Rishi never spoke again. Naya had been working the case quietly ever since, and Bobby's search had unknowingly triggered the final piece she needed to set a trap. Back at Naya's apartment, where they were taken for safety, Rishi finally spoke freely. "My real name is Ravi Sharma. I used to believe that telling the truth would be enough. But sometimes, it costs you everything. I ran, I hid, and in the process I lost myself. Bobby sat beside him, silent for a moment. "You didn't lose yourself, you just forgot who you were. And now a broken bar, maybe it's time to remember." The days that followed were quiet but filled with change. Rishi began working with the crime branch to rebuild the case. He stayed at Bobby's place for a while, and slowly, the walls he had built around himself began to fall. The late-night chai talks returned. The laughter came back, though softer now. And in those small moments, love found its way back in, this time, stronger, not rushed, but rooted in truth. The story of Bobby or Rishi, a tale of unexpected love and destiny, wasn't just about two people falling for each other. It was about what happens when life tests that love, when fear, secrets, and danger try to break it. It was about healing, trust, and choosing to stay, even when running feels easier. And though the final message stayed in Bobby's phone, unanswered and mysterious, he knew one thing: whatever came next, they would face it together. Because sometimes, love doesn't promise safety. It promises courage.